13 years after the release of the first Avatar movie, we have Avatar The Way of Water herding people back to the theaters, but after all these years, was it worth the wait? Yes, it was. This is exactly what I wanted out of a new Avatar movie, and it used the years really well. You can see how far they progressed. It literally is one of the most visually stunning movies I have ever seen. I felt like a kid again, experiencing the world of Pandora, forgetting time exists until my bladder reminded me 3 hours later. Avatar The Way of Water does what no movie has been able to do in the past few years, I'd argue not even Top Gun Maverick, which is remind us what the magic of cinema really is. The theatrical experience that's presented here is leagues above anything you could get at home and streaming services, and I think that's what movies need to do, is set themselves apart and get people to go back to the theater. Avatar The Way of Water really is a movie, not a film or a groundbreaking piece of work. It's simply a super entertaining movie. And with a runtime of over 3 hours, yes, it felt like I was sitting there for a long time, but the time flew, and I think it's largely thanks to the pacing. I thought this movie was extremely well paced for the runtime, and although it's slightly overindulgent at times with some of the water scenes, I wouldn't want any of the time shaved out because it was so enjoyable and it helped the world build so masterfully that it gave you this stunning experience that you don't really get with any other movie. The action sequences also really help to break it up for me. They keep kind of going back to more action-oriented scenes during all these water scenes, and to me, that broke it up perfectly. If it hadn't been like that, I think I would be a little bit more negative, but they kept going back to that, and all the action sequences reminded me of video game cinematics, and I mean that as a compliment. The choreography and style of MMO cinematics, for example, like Star Wars The Old Republic, is so good that it was epic getting to see it in an insanely well-directed film like this, especially seeing all these scenes in 3D. And I haven't seen a 3D movie, I think, since I was in 6th grade, and that fad died, and thank God it did. And I may have forgot what 3D's like, but I was blown away by the 3D here, and I honestly feel like if every movie utilized 3D this well, I would go see every movie in 3D. I think it's the only way to experience this movie, so I definitely recommend if you're going to go see it in 3D. And it wasn't just the action scenes that looked amazing. The water, obviously, The Way of Water, I would hope it looks good, but it looked stunning. Not only were these scenes gorgeous to look at, but having the actors learn to swim and hold their breath underwater paid off tremendously. It looked so real and natural because it was. I don't think it's something that you could put people on strings for or whatever. I think James Cameron was right in focusing on getting them to learn to hold their breath for long periods of time and act underwater. I can't imagine how hard it must have been to act while having to focus on holding your breath underwater and meditating and doing all these strategies while also making sure you're getting good facial expressions and you're getting a good take for the camera. I can't imagine how hard that would have been. Now, I've talked a lot about how the movie looks and its entertainment value, but not much about the story or characters, and I think the reason for that is because that's the way the movie's meant to be enjoyed. The characters are fleshed out just enough to make us care. The only performance I ever really have an issue with is Sam Worthington's character as Jake Sully. He's just such a dull character, especially when you compare him to other James Cameron protagonists. But the movie's not all about him, and the other performances make up for it. Sigourney Weaver plays a 14-year-old Na'vi and does so very convincingly. I had no issues with the voice, even though a lot of people talked about how the voice sounded too deep or too mature. I thought they did a great job. I don't know if they audio tuned it or what they had to do to make that happen, but she sold me. I thought it was a great performance. The whole Sully family was a highlight in general for me, and I can see them getting better and better as the movies go on, and I hope that helps improve the story and get us more attached to more characters. As for negatives, I'd say that the dialogue was a little bit cringy at times and kept taking me out of the movie. Some of the kids talk like they were born on Earth and use Earth lingo from 2022. It's really weird, and it kept taking me out of the movie. They kept saying bruh to each other and stuff like that. And as always, I have to mention that the story, script, and characters were only really serviceable. I really think the focus for James Cameron was on delivering us a visually stunning masterpiece, so I just feel silly calling it even a negative. Overall, guys, Avatar The Way of Water is going to succeed in wowing audiences again, just like it did 13 years ago, maybe even better this time in my opinion. I do like it a little bit better than the first movie. This movie made me feel like a kid again. I was just thinking, how did they make this movie? What am I experiencing? When we left, I felt like I had just left Pandora and went back to the dull world of Earth. We walked outside of the theater and it was all rainy and cold with no color colors, just dull colors everywhere. And my buddy Cam, who I was with, said, man, can we just go back into Pandora? Can we go back in there? And I agree with that sentiment. That's not something you can really say about a lot of movies because they don't world build that heavily. But with this movie, it feels like you get Pandora. You know what that world is. It could exist. And it makes me want to live in it. So I guess it succeeded in that. But guys, I loved this movie. I had a great time with it. Definitely recommend going to check it out. And if you do, go see it in the biggest possible screen in 3D. I know I don't like 3D usually. Most people don't, and they're wondering why is it coming back? Because this movie was made for 3D. It uses it very well. Definitely go see it in 3D. Let me know, did you see it already? What did you guys think? If not, are you excited to go see it? Let me know in the comments section. When I get to 200 subs, I'll be giving away a bunch of 4K digital codes, so definitely keep an eye out for that. Thank you guys so much for the growth on this channel. I really appreciate it. See ya.